Welcome to the Let's Talk Business podcast, a project of the Pinchus Group. Gain valuable, actionable ideas from the world's top business leaders to help you take the next step in your business journey. And now, here is your host, Meny Hoffman.
Okay, Pincus, you believe it? We're back to episode number 3.
Yep.
And this is amazing. Baruch Hashem. Thank you, everybody that's sending in feedback. It's appreciated because we keep on recording these episodes and we are going to address all these topics that actually are being brought to our attention. Thank you for that, and I appreciate it. If you're listening this on any of the platforms that you could leave a like, a comment, please do so, because those comments are actually helping us fill up the content for the remaining episodes to make sure that we cover everything that a salesperson would need.
Support the channel.
Absolutely. So today we are going to discuss something I know you're very passionate about, because I've seen some of your statuses, I've seen you talking. Usually those conversations are in the dark car, like on the way at the end of the day that you're sharing. But what is the topic? The topic is what triggers a person to buy. Now, why it's so important is because sometimes salespeople are so focused on perfecting their sales pitch, perfecting how they sell, their sales process, the sales system, which is all very important. We'll get to that as well. They forgot to put themselves into the mindset of how does a person make a decision? Why does a client actually buy? What triggers a person to say, yes, where do I sign my name? And today's topic I'm so excited about because we're going to dive into the nitty-gritty of the technicals of it. We're going to dive into the nitty-gritty of the human psychology behind it. And guess what? As we said in the previous episode, we're not touching manipulation over here. We're assuming you have a great product. We're assuming you have a great company you work for. We're assuming you're a great salesperson, and you just have to connect to the right buyer. So with that, I want to start with a story, and I think that's going to shape this episode and the conversation where we want to go. I spoke to a very successful salesperson. This goes back a couple of years ago, and he shared with me the following story. And I asked him, like, what was some of the pivotal moments in your career that you started shifting the way you think, the way you do? And he told me, exactly, I remember the story. And he told me the following. I was a young salesperson. I sold software. And, the company supported me, but I was on my own. And I was starting to close sales. I had this big enterprise fish that I was after. Like, this was my North Star. I want to get one of those clients. He's working with a client. He's going through the first step, the second step. And then finally, he's making progress, and he's reporting back to sales manager, he's reporting back to the company that I think we're getting this guy warming up, whatever the conversation went. One day, the guy gets an email that our company is looking to move forward. We want to have a call with our full team.
Your full team.
Your tech guys and this and that, the whole spiel. He is so excited. Can you imagine such a day? He runs back to his team. We got to set it up as soon as possible. We're just about closing the sale. He has that call, and they asked the most brilliant questions. The question about exactly what your process is, how the system works, all these questions that he's loving it. Not only is he loving it, he's going like thumbs up, like from his side. It wasn't a Zoom call at that time, it was a phone call.
It resonates.
It was a phone call. Like, he's asking exactly the questions. We have all the answers, and this is like the best partnership. Ends up happening, the call goes for 45 minutes, like a real in-depth call. Everybody's answering, everybody's communicating. He puts down the call ends. Okay, we'll get back to you. We'll make a decision, we'll get back to you. By mistake, he did not put down the phone. He hears on the other side, they're starting to laugh. All of them are laughing. And one of the guys says, this young fellow thinks we're going to be buying from him. He didn't realize that we just wanted all the information, so we're going to give it for our developers to build.
Wow.
This was obviously a shocker for him. And at that point, he said, something I'm doing wrong not to understand the client. How could I go so far and being delusional, thinking this guy is buying from me?
Without even knowing that.
Knowing that he's just extracting information because they want to build it in-house. And then he went on to his career to really grasp the concept of how a person makes a decision, what are the triggers, when do you see the person's interest is really serious or not. So I think just to frame this conversation, I think it's just to lead us right in. I want to take it away. It's just from your mindset, asking again the question, how do people misunderstand about how decisions are made or what triggers a person to buy or not to buy?
Loaded question. We're going to dive back. I want to
Exactly.
what is sales?
Exactly.
And then what does it take to get started? The first question I always ask, and when I train or anything, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about salespeople? I know you talk to a lot of salespeople. Let's take me and you out of the picture. What do people in general believe about salespeople? And it's not the nicest things. In most cases, they think they're peasants, pests, manipulators, liars. They're stealing.
They'll do whatever it takes to get a sale.
The first thing in gaining trust is you have to prove them wrong. And very, very quickly. Otherwise, you're just another salesperson.
This episode of the Let's Talk Business podcast is sponsored by Flow Digital and Pipedrive. Sales is the lifeblood of every business. No sales means no revenue and no business. So if you are a business owner or in sales, you already know how important it is to have a proper CRM. A good CRM helps you manage your sales process and keeps leads from falling through the cracks and makes sure you have the proper reporting so you could analyze what's happening every single day. If the CRM is too complicated or not set up properly, the team just won't use it. When that happens, leads get lost, follow-up get missed, and ultimately deals stall. That's where Pipedrive comes in. Pipedrive is an easy-to-use CRM designed to make tracking and sales process simple. You can see your pipeline at a glance, move deals forward, and make sure you never miss a follow-up. And with built-in AI, get insights to help you close more deals. But that's not all. Easy to use doesn't always mean efficient. That's where Flow Digital steps in. I'm personally a Flow Digital client that helped me set up the Pipedrive at Ptex. Speaking from personal experience, I could attest they're the best in the business at setting up CRMs and automating the sales workflow. As one of the top Pipedrive experts, Flow Digital builds automation and AI-powered workflows that handle the busy work. Pipedrive becomes one of your most powerful tools for your salespeople. As a listener to the show, you can sign up for a free Pipedrive trial at flow.digital/LTB, where you'll get a 45-day trial of Pipedrive, plus you'll be able to get a 45-minute consultation to get your CRM set up the right way. Once again, that's flow.digital/LTB. So you get the best of both worlds. You get the easiest CRM out there, which is Pipedrive, and you get Flow Digital to help you set it up. Remember, your business and your sales team will always thank you for setting the right system so they could focus on closing more sales.
What is sales? Who cares? What does it take a person to buy from you, okay? So the first thing is a problem. You got to identify, that person has to identify by themselves, or you have to help them identify a problem that they currently have. And it always starts with a problem. The next step would be connecting, or you understanding the problem. The next step is a solution. You have to gain trust that whatever is going to happen, they can trust you and rely on you. And if you have a right solution, bring it to them and get them to trust and finally make the decision to move forward with you. That sounds so easy. The first thing is problems. And most salespeople just call people and say, hey, can I offer you X, Y, and Z? Without understanding you can offer it, why should I take it? So the first thing is a problem. Hey, I'm sure you're already using a payroll company, Meny. Are you happy?
Yes.
Extremely happy.
Based on my knowledge, I have to ask my team.
Are you against me talking to your team about this?
No.
That's all I want. Getting the right people, that's number one. If you don't talk to the right people, we're not even in a sale. Once you talk to the right people, my question will start again. Are you happy? Now you're the decision maker. Are you happy?
Currently, absolutely.
Okay. If they will reach out to you and for your advice, and they will offer you a year free if you can help them become even better, do you think there's anything for them to become better at?
Probably you can pick up a couple of things that every company can improve.
And from there, I go to seeing if the person is really happy or they're covering it up because they're not interested in giving you their problems because they're afraid you'll manipulate them into switching. So get them extremely comfortable. They say yes, because people like to be smart and say, sure, they can have better customer support. What do you mean by that? You have a problem with customer service. So, and I realized it's so, you're like walking on a tightrope and you have a problem with customer service. No, we don't have a problem. So always is like, is customer support a problem? Yes. Is it affecting you in any way? Diving really deep until you understand the problem. It's very similar to a doctor. Let's pretend you go to the doctor and say, I'm having terrible headaches the past few weeks. And the doctor says, sure, I know exactly what it is. Here's a prescription. You say, are you crazy or what? So you're the same thing. The doctor will have to ask a lot of questions. When did it start? Where is it hurting? What happened? What does your diet look like? Your lifestyle? So many questions. And then at some point, like, I think X, Y, and Z is happening. And then you gain trust and you would go for help. The same as with the sale. Gaining trust is first. So when I will tell you, hey, are you happy? The first thing you will know from me is if you're extremely happy with where you are, I will not take you on as a client. I don't think I ever took a client that was happy from a different company. I think it's bad business. They'll forever be ungrateful. Every single little thing that will go a bit different than what they expect, a little bit different from what they expected, will be brutal. They'll challenge you. They'll be upset at you. Like the color of the check. Like, who cares? Like, there's no reason they switch. They want their comfortability. When a person has a problem, for example, they need customer support and that product is not providing customer support. Or if they need a simple product and that product is overcomplicated, they are ready to sacrifice for simplicity. They're ready to sacrifice for great customer service. They're ready to pay triple the price because someone understands them. And that's why they become a happy client. My father doesn't use me for payroll. And people don't know this, but he offers me every half a year. He's like, Pincus, when am I switching to Friday? I'm like, you're happy with this? I've been there 10 years. Nothing really changed. I'm like, perfect. Why change? And I really believe in that philosophy.
So you're let's
Sure.
confirm. So you're talking about problem and solution, which means
100%.
is without a problem. So either you create, either that person has the problem when you start talking to that person, or sometimes you make the person aware of, because the problem doesn't have to be a technical problem, could be an enhancement to what they're currently having.
A problem could be something that they want to avoid.
Exactly.
So if someone doesn't use a product at all yet, and they're not aware that they want one, for example, an IT company, for a company that does not have an IT, but that's the first thing. How important is it for you to not get hacked? Very important. What would a hack look like? If someone breaches your product or platform or computer, what would that look like for your business? A nightmare? A nightmare? What will your clients look? What will happen to your clients? Will you lose any business over this? Will you lose any sleep over this? And at some point, if the client realizes that this is really a risk that they want to avoid, then if you gain trust, you become their solution.
Got it.
I don't think you'll find any reason for people to buy without having a problem. For example, buying a Rolex solves a problem.
For the person that needs
100%. Why does he need a Rolex? Why would he spend $25,000 to $100,000 on a watch? It has a
the
reason.
same question. Why do you need a Rolex?
First of all, I don't have a Rolex yet.
I know you like watches.
I love watches.
Okay.
But someone buying a Rolex, they're buying status,
Of course.
they're filling some hole that they have from being a kid and being bullied. They want to show the world they're successful, or they just appreciate, for example, they have a need to appreciate certain things in this world, and therefore they want to have certain things that are rare. It always solves something for them.
So let's talk about the problem solution, because I've seen salespeople that create a problem
That doesn't exist.
doesn't exist. No, meaning to say they're trying to. We're not talking about bad mouthing existing vendor, which that's terrible business ethics, and there's no place for that.
Let the client do that if they're not happy.
Exactly. What I'm saying is, if only you use us and we could do this, we could do that. How big of a problem does it need? A salesperson should be comfortable enough to try to get the business.
A problem that's worth switching. If you wouldn't switch for that, why would you make someone else switch for that?
Got it.
So I'd ask, if someone is extremely happy, I really believe it's bad business.
Okay. So let's talk about the second thing you mentioned is trust. I know it's everybody understands that in order to make a decision, in order to want to work with you, there needs to be a trust factor. How do you gauge if you already established that?
You have to feel. But have you done anything to gain their trust? Do they know that if they're not a good fit, you'll move on?
Mm-hmm.
And not just, you can say it verbally, but they have to really feel it. And for example, if someone says, hey, I would love to sign up, most salespeople just sign them up. Even when someone says, hey, and sometimes people call in the office and say, I'm ready to sign up. Who can I talk to? Like, thank you so much for reaching out. I would love to ask you a couple of questions to see if we're a good fit. And I've trained a salesperson. They're like, are you crazy? What? This guy literally called in signing up. But imagine if they sign up and then say, okay, there's a different vendor in the meantime that also speaks to them. Or you want them to buy from you and from you only, And you want to find that problem, even if they're ready to make that decision. So I would say, is it the first time you're having payroll? Yes. Okay, so sometimes it's harder. The problem doesn't have to be so big. For example, if someone has their first employee, they need payroll. They have a problem. They need someone to do their taxes. So you can talk about it. Like, what do you look for? So you can't ask, what would it look like if you don't have a, don't be stupid.
Yeah.
But I would ask, what do you look for in a payroll company? I know it's the first time. You never tried payroll before. Well, in best case scenario, what would a payroll company look like? And if they tell me the best case scenario, we can fax in hours and someone just call, we're not a good fit. If they say something easy to use, great support, then we're a fit. So it always goes like that, problem, solution. If there's no problem, you don't want to have that person as a client. And the more solutions you have for their problems, the more they'll buy in and like your company and use you and refer you and recommend you. It takes losing a lot to gain a lot. And we lost a lot of leads, especially in the beginning. We didn't have X, Y, and Z features. Features the client even didn't think about. Then I would ask, is this something you would need? Yes. I'm sorry, I don't think we're a good fit at this point. And we lost a lot, but then we gain a lot. So being focused, being niche, know exactly which problem you solve. Get to know your competitors a little bit. Not because you're going to bash them. You never do that. But if someone says, I'm using X, Y, and Z, I'm not happy, you know exactly where to go, which questions to ask.
So we spoke about problem. We spoke about trust. You mentioned that trust is something that you start feeling. At which point do you feel that it's my duty, it's my responsibility to get the person to make a decision?
I think every industry is different, and every call and every person is different. Did they call just to ask for pricing? What do you do? Like, hey, how much do you charge? People just give price. They call 5 companies, they get 5 pricing. What do you think they'll do?
They'll go for the cheapest if all of them are the same.
If it looks the same, they have no idea. Or if some guy was very smart and said, I can give you a price, but I don't even know if we're a good fit. What are you looking for? And then goes into a conversation and connects with them. And they say, you have X, Y, and Z. We have X, Y, and Z. We connected. Then they'll pay more because you're a better fit. Most people miss on that part. What was your question again?
What comes out? Like, how do you know at which point you have
which
to...
part do you have to push for a decision? It really depends on the conversation. If someone says, I need to start payroll this week, I want to know X, Y, and Z, you go into the conversation. And there's any question, by the way, my favorite closing line, I never ask people, are you ready to sign up? People hate that. Any questions before signing up? If the conversation goes well, if they have a problem that I can solve, I feel trusted. And I will say, look, and I always summarize it. After going through the entire conversation, I'll tell them, look, from what I am hearing, you used X, Y, and Z, you then switched to that company. The first company, you didn't like this. You loved that. Second company. And if we're a good fit, I will tell them. So based on that, I believe you'll like we're a good fit because we align on this. We have that feature that you mentioned. We also have that you didn't even think about that we can do. Let's talk pricing. And they're like, you're too expensive. Then objections. Most people have objections because the client controls the conversation. Sometimes you control the conversation. I interview my clients. And then I say, let's talk pricing. Is that too expensive? I once had a client that I asked, how much do you pay? He said 400. My price was 1,000. It was a bigger client. I don't know why they paid so little. And they were extremely unhappy. They asked, what does your pricing look like? I said, how much do you pay? And I said, I don't think we're going to be a good fit. She's like, why not? It's like, you're currently paying 400. Our pricing is more than double. I will assume this is not something you want to move forward. She said, look, for a reason we're on the call. I hate them, so of course I'm going to have to pay something more. But I said 2.5 times more or 3 times more. And she's like, for the perfect solution, yes. And I'm like, this is our pricing. Am I crazy? And then we move forward. So it's always about understanding and don't play with them, but be in control, know exactly what's going on, be there, you know? Some people just take calls on the fly, focus. And I'm so trained, my brain is so trained these days to find problems. I'll talk on a call and my brain like literally has this red light going off like, I'm listening and this is the problem. Hey, stop a second. This morning a person called into the office. I was sitting with Shulam, one of my salespeople, and I pick up the call. She actually put in the first information show. I got it, signed up. But then she's like, I'm using a different company. How much do you charge? I don't think there's what I assumed it's already, she's signed up. And she is like, for so little in savings, I don't think it's worth switching. I said, absolutely not. I don't think anyone ever switched for that amount of price. But you know why people did switch? Do you have X, Y, and Z problem? She's like, yes. And she's like, no. And then I go ask my questions. And at one place she was unsure. I'm like, let's talk about this. And that company doesn't have technology. So I said, what happens if you have to process payroll after 5 o'clock when no one is in the office? She's like, oh, that's a nightmare. It can never happen. How many times did it happen? 4 times this year. Back and forth. The closing was, she said, it's going to take me, I don't know how much time to switch. I don't think it's worth the time. I said, look, all I need from you maximum is 1 hour. How much headaches and time do you think it's smart for the 1 hour to save 5 times a year that you forget to process payroll and you're just anxious about it? She said, 1 hour, it's definitely worth it. That's it. That's the close. So making them realize you're not manipulating. Manipulating is when you manipulate your kid to do something because they don't want, but you want it. If this is the client's best interest, you just ask them, what do you want? Because you can't tell a client, sign up because that's what I want. That would be extremely stupid. So you got to figure out, what does the client want? And if the client doesn't want to switch, if they're happy where they are, don't be stupid. Don't take them on.
It reminds me another point we've been doing for the last, I don't remember how many years, is you control the narrative. Meaning to say, yes, as I said before, we're not manipulative, but clients need to make decisions, and we need to understand where they are in the process. So I remember years ago, we had an issue. We had a closing issue. We used to send proposals, and our proposals in marketing, so it's a lot of back and forth. We have to understand the scope of work. And all of a sudden, we saw a huge drop in conversion. And we were debating back and forth, until we saw 2 main reasons. One is people don't understand our proposal. They'll take our proposal and now match it up with 3 other people, but the same line item could mean different things with different people. Second of all, sometimes the person that we're talking to and presenting the proposal and sending the proposal is not even the right decision maker. So the boss
They
told
just
her,
forward it.
get us 5 proposals of redoing our brand or whatever it is. The last, I don't remember if it's 5 years or more than that, we've never emailed a proposal without a presentation of a proposal. It's a full presentation. It's the first step where the person could see what we do. Now, it goes in a lot of work in it. So we would have a conversation, tentatively to speak about our pricing. So they get just an idea of what they're getting
They're
into.
looking for something for $1,000 and you're
Just doesn't
$20,000.
match. But as soon as they say, we were somewhat in that range, let me prepare a full proposal, all details, everything included, our process, everything in that document.
And that's a conversation.
And that's always a presentation. And in that presentation, we'll always say, are you the final decision maker? No. So let's schedule all 3 of them at the same call. Or if they can't make it, after you're happy with the proposal, we want to present it to the other 2 people in the company.
What does it take to get the decision maker on this call?
Yeah.
It's such a fair question to ask.
Yeah. And
I love what you're saying. I met this construction company. They send out over 100 proposals a month. They get around 20 jobs. And I said, how much time do you spend on each proposal? They have full-time people working on proposals. So I'm like, let's pretend you only have to send 30. He said, if I send 30, I'll only get 3 clients. I think sending proposals just because a contractor wants to get 7 proposals, I wouldn't do that. If you ask me, hey, I need a proposal, I would say, look, last job you used that competitor of mine. 2 jobs before you used a different guy. Why do you want me to send you a proposal? I would love to understand it a little bit more.
Yeah, so it really
without triggering them in a very nice
that's
way.
What I'm saying. It's a fine line, because I've seen some of your lines how you use in sales, and I think Charlie has a lot of those.
Charlie, is my sales coach.
Yeah, so it's also not
and
every. But I will say this: the same way that not every client is the same, not every salesperson is the same. You have to know who you're dealing with, which lines will trigger them negatively or favorably.
I think certain lines always works for everyone.
So one of the lines that I picked up.
And some people are just not worth to have as a client.
But let me park back. Let me go back to a second to the proposal part, because I think this is very important for salespeople. A lot of salespeople get very excited about the activity. They're sending out proposals, and then all of a sudden the month passed and they don't have enough sales. Yeah. Zoom in a little bit. Ask yourself, maybe I sent proposals to people that are not ready to buy, and maybe you have to redo some of your sales process to qualify better your people to make sure they're ready for proposals. So now you're going around all upset that I'm sending proposals, I'm not closing anything. You're not sending proposals. You're just being busy. Those people are not ready for proposals. In order to send a proposal, somebody's actually needing a proposal. So that's a very important point. But I do want to go back to the style. Like, I know that you mean to say, I want to ask you could I ask you a very personal question about Friday? So you have a great team of salespeople. Shout out to your great team. Do you see that you could create systems and processes on sales across the board with every salesperson, and or
Absolutely.
or some salespeople have a different way of selling and closing?
The people that work on my team, I think most of them adapted, and this is Charlie's credit. I think he transformed the way I do sales, and with them, and obviously every single person will always have their own flavor, their own spice, and some people use it 20%, 30%, 50%.
But does it need to be that way? Like for people listening to this, does it
If
need to be
something
that?
works for you, go ahead.
No, I
keep
mean
on
to
doing
say,
it.
is one of the things you're looking for when you're hiring new salespeople that they have to fit the culture, that they could not coachable. Obviously, and we're talking about those basic terms need to be there. But I'm saying that if they say, you know what, I like to sell differently, I'll bring you the results. Is this something that you say, no, in this company, in order to hold you accountable, in order to make sure that we reach our goals, we have to be cookie cutter, everybody doing the same type of selling the same way?
Great question. If someone produces the results, use your way, your style, do it your way. And if you're successful with something, go ahead, continue. Why should I change the way I do sales? Who said you should? Are you successful or not? And people always challenge, why should I go to this seminar? Who said you should? So if someone has the way, but if someone will bring on clients that are happy somewhere else, which automatically, it's not a method. I know for a fact they'll be upset. Then no, please don't do that. If you convince every single client to sign up with Friday, no matter their size, what they're looking for, you're messing up my company. So no, the answer will be no. To certain things. So you don't have to copy everything. You can have your own channels, sales channels, your own style of talking. Everything stays the same. But certain things, I think, is in the essence and the core of the company. We do not take clients that are happy somewhere else. We do not force people or
that's
convince
value.
people
That's
to
value.
sign
That's
up.
the company's
Yeah, that's a
values.
company value. And they have to match it. If they bring on clients no matter what, you know how chaotic
But what
it can become.
happens with the sales process? The sales process.
Give me an example.
Typical example is, let's say I hire now a salesperson says, you know what, don't tell me to present proposals. It's too much time. I'm gonna email it. I'll bring you the sale.
Do you
I
think
don't
it's
wanna-
possible to do sales that way?
So personally,
Do you think
based
that
on my
clients will
experience,
be
no.
happy?
No,
Exactly
because
so.
we'll find ourselves later on in a process that's not working.
Then it's a no.
Got it. So
But if I can see it happen and it doesn't mess me up, be my guest. I don't care. I think Charlie did something and he proved it to me that you can charge more than everyone else. You can be like, and some people will say, I can't close. My company is very expensive. And that's the most common one, right? I think that's why they hire salespeople. And that's your job. Obviously, they need to provide more value. You have to find clients that have a problem that you actually solve. But that's what it is.
okay, there's so much more to cover, but let me fire around a couple of questions,
go.
and then we'll wrap this episode. So, what is one or two things you've seen as a deal breaker why a person decided the last minute not to buy? And on the flip side, one or two things that you've seen a person that you actually signed up as a customer and then being upset because it wasn't the right fit or whatever.
So deals going sour is because you manipulate them. You didn't gain trust.
So they feel that
They feel that, and at some point they're like, I don't want to deal with this guy. Clients that did sign up and became unhappy is people that got manipulated at some point. They signed up because you didn't set the expectations correctly. Then they signed up, they're like, I don't know, like why I even signed up.
okay. Do you have to become friends with your clients?
Absolutely no.
Okay, so how do you define relationship when it comes to clients?
I can become extremely close to certain clients, but it's still a client relationship. And certain clients became personal friends. It doesn't really matter. I don't think it's either or. It can be both. And in a business relationship, you have to be professional, communicate effectively, set expectations, deliver what you promise. That's it. I don't think people buy from you because you go to their son's wedding or what. They'll rather buy from you if you deliver what you promise on.
What is one or two things you would tell your team that even if they're pursuing a lead, just let it go?
So the obvious, if we're not a good fit, that's
So that would be
self-explanatory.
that
They
would be
know
already
it.
unqualified. Yeah.
Sometimes you see people, it's just not worth working with them. Edgy, people who control a very manipulative relationship with you. They ignore you when they want, and then they come back. Sometimes I just tell such a person, and I just helped one of my salespeople write a very nice message to someone. They took him on a ride for 6 months. And then they said, we're signing up next week. And then he gets a message, sorry, I don't think we'll make a switch for now. And then comes the manipulative message, but it might still happen. Let's be in touch.
Oh, wow.
So like, I helped him write a beautiful message that he's actually relieved. He felt that the process throughout, the way they communicated, they would ignore him for 3 weeks and then say, we need to hop on a call now. Like this felt like I wasn't sure the words have to be calculated. I remember writing it down.
Yeah,
But
in general,
basically, I'm relieved. I don't think this is a good business relationship.
I believe a business relationship means, if you ask me like, how do I define business relationship? Mutual respect. People have to understand that as much as you're the vendor, needs to be mutual
Oh, 100%.
respect. So the second you feel that this is a one-sided relationship, that's where everything gets lost.
And it's also totally okay to walk away at some point and just say, I don't think at this point it makes sense for us to do business together. And it's totally okay if you become not the perfect solution for their growing problems. It's time for us to part ways and we stay friends. I have people that I've sent away that are or became my best friends.
Got
It's
it.
just business-wise, it
By
doesn't
the
make sense to
way,
do
by
business.
the way, I'll say it on the air. I remember the first time I asked you, should I switch over to Friday? You said you're not on a target market.
Maybe. I'll have to have that conversation again, but it totally makes sense, especially then.
Let me ask you something related to Friday as we close this episode. Do you have some sort of bell or some sort of way of celebrating every time you get a client?
No. But we do have a group and we have custom links. Every salesperson has their own link. And I would post every single time there's a sign up. It would be new sign up via Burach, Shulam, Joel, Yehuda. And every single time I would post that. And that, I think it drives momentum. Also celebrates great months or milestones. For example, for 1,000 clients, we did a full trip with the sales team.
Cool.
We already went to Dominican Republic last year for celebrating last year's year-end season. So yes, I believe you should celebrate and work with it.
I know you speak very many times about, we spoke about before as well, like that a client that's not qualified, fitting your criteria, you actually are very, confident in telling them that we're not the right fit.
Sure.
Do you celebrate letting those people go as well?
Great question, but we should. I don't think there's a way like, hey, I just let this lead go. I think it's actually an awesome way of celebrating.
I was thinking
because that's playing the game, enjoying the process.
I was thinking we have to have two bells. One bell gets you ring when you celebrate a success, a client signed up, and the other bell gets ring when we actually help the client.
I will need hearing aids if I had that many bells per day. But Baruch Hashem, the team signs up and we have
Pinchus, this was awesome. Pinchus,
and
this was awesome. Thank you.
likewise.
And just to recap for our salespeople, following this series of episodes related to sales, this one we spoke about understanding the client, understanding what type of component you play with the relationship. Of course, there's so much more to discuss. And of course, every scenario is a little different, but this is overall topics we're trying to cover. In our next episode, we will cover something that I know, Pinchus, you're going to enjoy, but you gotta get some energy before the next episode. How do you, as a salesperson, how do you get confidence? How do you deal with rejection? And ultimately, how do you identify if you're doing a great job in sales? So I'm looking forward for that episode.
Likewise.
Before that, I want to thank you for the feedback. And again, keep the feedback coming. If you want to watch one of the past episodes, go to ptexgroup.com/podcast, where you'll see the sales series, everything related to those episodes. Thank you, Pinchus. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
This episode of the Let's Talk Business podcast is sponsored by Flow Digital and Pipedrive. Sales is the lifeblood of every business. No sales means no revenue and no business. So if you are a business owner or in sales, you already know how important it is to have a proper CRM. A good CRM helps you manage your sales process and keeps leads from falling through the cracks, and makes sure you have the proper reporting so you could analyze what's happening every single day. If the CRM is too complicated or not set up properly, the team just won't use it. When that happens, leads get lost, follow-up get missed, and ultimately deals stall. That's where Pipedrive comes in. Pipedrive is an easy-to-use CRM designed to make tracking and sales process simple. You can see your pipeline at a glance, move deals forward, and make sure you never miss a follow-up. And with built-in AI, get insights to help you close more deals. But that's not all. Easy to use doesn't always mean efficient. That's where Flow Digital steps in. I'm personally a Flow Digital client that helped me set up the Pipedrive at PTEX. Speaking from personal experience, I could attest they're the best in the business at setting up CRMs and automating the sales workflow. As one of the top Pipedrive experts, Flow Digital builds automation and AI-powered workflows that handle the busy work. Pipedrive becomes one of your most powerful tools for your salespeople. As a listener to the show, you can sign up for a free Pipedrive trial at flow.digital/LTB, where you'll get a 45-day trial of Pipedrive, plus you'll be able to get a 45-minute consultation to get your CRM set up the right way. Once again, that's flow.digital/LTB. So you get the best of both worlds. You get the easiest CRM out there, which is Pipedrive, and you get Flow Digital to help you set it up. Remember, your business and your sales team will always thank you for setting the right system so they could focus on closing more sales.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Let's Look Business podcast. I hope you enjoyed the practical, no-nonsense advice that our guests shared. If you found value in listening, I would be so grateful if you could share the episode with your friends, and if you could give the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever platform you listen. Subscribe to the show and get notified every time we publish a new episode. The Let's Look Business podcast is a PTEX Group original production. Until next time, make it a great day.